OSI reference model. Now, a network reference model. It is a network reference model and a conceptual framework for understanding the relationship between different entities within a network. So, what is OSI model first? Now, this is a reference model. It is actually not used. This is just a reference model. It is not used actually. The what we use is it is actually defined by the ISO. ISO defined this model so that all the different vendors of hardware vendors or network vendors, they can communicate to each other. Because when the network starts and in early days of networking, we have different vendors. They were making different hardware and different software. Now they make their software and hardware for only their for their own vendors. So vendor for suppose we can say, like for example, IBM will not go with the Microsoft will not go with IBM, because those different vendors were making the hardware or software for only their own communication. Now when the network increase and the time comes when each vendor different vendors hardware and software try to communicate to each other, and they are not able to do that. In that case, OSI defines. OSI is an organization. It is called Open System OSI ISO actually. ISO is the international organization for setting the standardizations. It is the international organization for standardization. So it actually do what it sets the standards. So it sets the standard for the network also, and they set what they define this OSI reference model. OSI means Open System Interconnection, and they define this model. They define this reference model so that the vendors which is making software or hardware, they can make their software and hardware based on this OSI reference model. And because all the different vendors are using the same model, so the communication, the different vendors can communicate to other vendors also, like all the other vendors, they can communicate to each other. So devices made by the different one vendor can communicate to the devices made by the other vendor also, because they are following the same reference model, they are following the same standard. So it is just a reference model. We have one more reference model. It is called TCP/IP model. It is also called DoD model. DoD model, that means Defense Department of Defense model. So this OSI is a reference model. It has a layer. It has a layer structure, which is what it is defined in the layers. So when we talk about the OSI, that means it is open system interconnection, and it is defined as a layer structure. This open system interconnection model is conceptual model, and that characterize and standardize the internal functions of the communication system by partitioning it into abstract layers. And the model is a product of the Open System Interconnection project at the International Organization of Standardization, that is the ISO, which is having a project related to Open System Interconnect. So they define these 7 layers. So they define these 7 layers. See, these 7 layers is the responsible layer for transferring the data from one device to other device. That means if a data wants to go from one device to other device, then the data must follow and go through all these 7 layers. Now when we have these 7 layers, so these 7 layers have some upper layers and some lower layers, and there is one layer, we can say it is a middle layer. Now when we talk about the numbers of the layers, so you can see here the numbers of the layers are from the physical layer. Like when you say what is the first layer, so the first layer is actually physical layer. So when I talk about the number and position of the layer, so it is what the physical layer is the first layer, second layer is the data link layer, then network layer, the transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and application layer. But we are writing these layers when we write the layers like this in this image. So I write it like application first, then presentation, session, transport, network, data link and physical. But when you talk about the numbers, so numbers are this. Data, the physical layer is the first layer and application layer is the seventh layer. But when I am writing it, it is application layer I am writing on top and the physical layer I am writing on the bottom. Now why I am doing this? So why we are writing it like this? Now because it defines that how the data go from one device to other device. Now that means if suppose this is my device here, so when the data goes out from my device, so it will go through the application, presentation, session, transport, at network, data link and physical layer. That means when the data go out from our system, the first layer will be application layer, and then presentation, session, and then network, transport and all these layers. And finally from the physical layer, the data will go out of our system, and then when it reaches the destination machine, and when it try to enter the destination machine, so the first layer which it will meet will be the physical layer, and then data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, application layer, and data will go into your system and you will see the data in your device, in your system. So when we write the layer, so we write it like it is exiting, the data is going out of your system. So the first layer we write is application layer, and the last layer we write is the physical layer, because we are writing it like the data is going out. But when we talk about the numbers of the layers, so the position or numbers of the layers, so the number of the layer will be first will be the physical layer. These numbers are given from the destination side. Destination side means, destination means what? When the data is going out from some system, so it will be the source, and the data, when data is coming into some system, that means it is like a destination. It is simple. If you want to understand the destination, source and destination, that means if you suppose write a letter to someone, so in a from field you will write your name, that means you are the source who is sending this letter, and in a to field you will write the destination address, that means the address which you want to send, so that will be considered as a destination. So because the letter is going from this device to the other device, so the device which is sending the letter will be the source, and the device which is receiving the letter will be the destination. So based on the direction, source and destination will be defined. So when we talk about the numbers of the layer, so it is given by the destination. So as a destination, the physical layer will be the first layer on the destination, and the data link layer will be the second, and the application layer will be the seventh layer. And for the source, the application layer will be first layer, and then physical layer will be the last layer. Now each layer will do its job. These layers doing different jobs on the data. Like when the data trying to go out of your system, so the application layer will met first and it do its job. Then presentation layer will do the job, then session layer will do the job, transport layer, network layer, data link layer, and finally physical layers will do the job and data will be ready to send. And when the data will receive on the destination, so when the data trying to go inside our system, so first the physical layer will do the job on data, then data link layer will do the job, then network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, finally application layer will do the job, and we can see the data in our system. So each layer has their own responsibility and defined job they do. So what they do? So first, the application layer. Now when the data is going out of your system, so the first layer we made is the application layer. Now what the application layer do first? So the application layer's responsibility is to integrate the network functionality into the host operating system and enables the network services. Basically, it is an application layer and it defines the applications that the networking features are available. So if the networking features are available, so it will make the application operating system that aware about the networking things. Like it will integrate the network functionality with the into the operating system, host operating system, and applications. The application layer does not include specific applications that provides the services, but rather provides the capability for services to operate on the network. So it provides the capability for the application that they can use the network. It is just, we can say it is just a medium between the application and the network. So it will make the network application aware that the network is available. If they want to send some data, so the application layer will take the data from the application and forward it to the other layer, the next layer. The next layer is presentation layer. These in this layer, these services will work like file services, like transferring, storing and updating the shared data, print services like enabling the network printers to be shared by multiple users, then manage message services where we transfer the data in many formats like text, videos and audios for from one location to another, and or from one user to another. So application layer's job is to just get the data from the application and forward it to the next layer. So it forward it to the next layer. It do application services like sharing application processing through the network and enabling specialized network servers to perform the processing task. Database services, storing, retrieving and coordinating database information through the network. Now the next layer will take over the data, and then the next layer is what? The presentation layer. Now the presentation layer will do what? It actually defines the formats of the presentation layer formats or present the data into a compatible form for recipient by the application or the destination system. And specifically the presentation layer ensure the formatting and translating of the data between systems. That means it do what? It formats the data to be an understandable format in both the system, like system source system and destination system. That means whether it is image file, whether it is text file, whether it is document file or PPT file, video file, whatever. So it formatted the data according to the source and destination that both will be understandable. Negotiation of data transfer syntax between system through converting character sets to the correct format. Compatibility with the host and encapsulation of data into message envelope by encryption and compression. Then also the presentation layer will do the encryption and compression. Now encryption means what? Making the normal data into the ciphertext data, like normal text into ciphertext to secure the data, so that if anyone try to get the data, they will not get the data, they will get the encrypted value. So making the data secure, will do the encryptions on the data, and that encryption job, doing the encryption job is done by the presentation layer. Then also compression. Now compression means if suppose we are not able to send the whole, like if we want to send the 50 MB data, but our application only accept 20 MB data, so what we'll do, we can compress the data. So basically if the application needs encryption, so doing the encryption job is the presentation layer's job to do the encryption and compression. If the application requires the compression, then it will also do the compression, like compress the data to get more space or make a data smaller so that it can go and transfer quickly. So it can make a data like 50 MB data, it will compress it into 30 MB or 20 MB. It depends on the data that how much it can compress. But if it is required, then the job of the presentation layer to compress it. Then restoration of data by decryption and decompression also. Now that means what? The de-encryption or decompression, it will also be done by the presentation layer, but on the destination side. From the sending side, it will encrypt, and from the destination side, it will decrypt. So from the source, from the sending machine, it will compress the data, and from the receiving machine, it will decompress the data. So it is the job of presentation layer. So the presentation layer do what? Format the data for the application layer. It will format the data for the application layer. Therefore, it also sets standard for multimedia and other file formats. That includes JPG, bitmap, TFFP, PICT, MPEG, WMV, like AVI, ASCII, EBCD, DIC, MIDI, WAVE, like voice, audio files, video files, image files, and all document files, all that. So it defines these and format the data, and if it is required to encrypt, it will encrypt and compress the data also. Then the session layer's job is to just manage the session, and after that presentation layer will forward the data to session layer. The session layer will do what? The primary job for the session layer is to manage the session in which data is transferred. So the session means what? When source machine try to send the data to the destination machine, so between source and destination machine a session will be created, and this session layer's job is to manage that session. The function is this layer at this layer may include like establishment and maintenance of communication sessions between the network host, ensuring that data is transported. Now remember, in a single system we can have multiple sessions. Like suppose I'm connecting some other machine, like I'm sitting on my system, I'm connecting Facebook. So I'm connecting the Facebook site. That means what? My machine and the Facebook server, we have a connection session established. The connection is going out. Then again I'm opening one more tab and I'm connecting Gmail. So my machine and the Gmail server, one more connection is running. Then in command prompt I'm connecting telnet to some local machine here in my network. So telnet session is also working. Then somebody is downloading, somebody is copying a share file from my system. I have shared the file and the file is copying or downloading by some other person from the other machine. So one more session is also established for the share files. It is using SMB protocol. So we have multiple sessions. We can have multiple sessions running in the single system from the single network adapter. So all those sessions managed properly, this is the job of this session layer, to manage it. Some sessions are coming in, some sessions are going out. So all those sessions should be managed properly. This is the job of this session layer. So it manage of multiple session. Each client connection call is a session, and a server can concurrently maintain thousands of sessions. And specifically on the servers, a lot of clients are connecting the server, so it can have a lots of thousands of sessions. So then assignment of the session ID number to each session, which then used by the transport layer to properly route the message. It also provides the session ID so that it will be used by the next layer, that is the transport layer, to properly transport the data. Then dialog control specify how the network device coordinate with each other, like simplex, half duplex or full duplex. It will be defined by the session layer. Termination of communication session between network host upon completion of the data transfer. And when the data is completely transferred, then what? It will also terminate the session. This is also the job of the session layer. So establishment, maintenance, and then finally termination is the job of session layer. Completely it is managing the sessions. Now all these three layers, application layer, presentation layer and session layer, are called the upper layers. All these three layers, this application, presentation and session layer, they called as a upper layer. Now why they called as a upper layer? That means basically for the network, these three layers are not important. That means for us, for the network students or for the network administrators, these layers are not important. Why it is not important? Because these layers are embedded into the application itself, operating system and application. So if anything goes wrong in this application, in these layers related to this layer, if you have a problem related to this layer, then what, we can't do anything. We have to just fix the operating system or application. So it is just inbuilt, it is integrated with the application, so it is not related to network. It is not related to network, it is not handled by the network. So these upper layers are basically not important for us. These layers job is to solve the is to produce the data. These layers job is to produce the data, and then the next layer's job is to transport the data, that is related to network. So the first three layers is related to application. Application's job is to provide the data, produce the data, and till this layer, after the session layer, the data will be created and the data packet will be created, and it is called PDU. Packet Data Unit. So this is the data, this is the actual data, it is created after these three layers. If anything goes wrong, if something is not working related to these layers, like session, like presentation, so if you want to fix this, then you have to just reinstall the application or fix the operating system problem. So it is not related to network. So after these three layers, the data will be created, data will be produced. It is like a PDU. This is the data, and it is called PDU, Packet Data Unit. Now the next layer is the data. The PDU will be forwarded to the next layer. It is transport layer. Now the transport layer will start its job. So transport layer's job is to do what? Transfer the data. And this layer is very important. This layer called middle layer. Like it is a middle layer, and this middle layer do the lot of jobs. So the transport layer provides the transition between the upper and lower layers of the OSI model, and making the upper and lower layers transport from each other. So upper layer formats and process the data without any concern for delivery. They don't concern about the delivery. The upper layer's job is the application job. They just produce the data, and the PDU is created. The lower layer's job is to prepare the data for delivery, and by fragmenting and attaching the transport required information. The transport layer's function is like a function for the transport layer is to service point addressing first. Like transport, the layer header includes service point address, which is port addresses. This layer gets the message to the correct process on the computer, unlike network layer, which gets each packet to the correct computer. Now it adds first the port number. That means first, actually this PDU is actually first segmented. When it reaches the transport layer, this packet, the PDU, will be segmented into multiple segments first. Multiple segments, that means if suppose this PDU is data we have, and the data is of 100 MB data. Now it does not want to send the 100 MB data at once in the network. So what this transport layer do first, it will first segment the data into small segments. For example, it will segment the data into packets of 11 MB, and each packet it will number a unique number, that is called sequence number. Like for example, it divided into multiple segments of the packets, like this is segment 1, segment 2, segment 3. So when it breaks it into segments, it numbers these segment as a sequence number. Sequence number 1 packet, sequence number 2, 3. So when they package, these packets reaches the destination, then when destination machine on the transport layer try to arrange the packet again, then this sequence number will be important, so that it can arrange the packet sequentially. Otherwise it can arrange the packet in a wrong manner, and the packet will be corrupted. So these sequence numbers are important. So first it will do what? It will segment the packet into smaller segments, and then give the segment ID, like sequence number, to each of the packets. Then after that, it also attach the port number into each packet. Now port number means what? Port number for source and destination. Now port number is like a unique number for the application, for the protocol actually. So suppose whatever the protocol communication we are doing, so based on that protocol it defines the source and destination port number, and that is defined by this transport layer. Now what is protocol? Protocol is actually a set of rules which is defined to do something. So whatever we do in the network, so whatever we do, like suppose we are sharing a file from one system to other system, so it is done by the share protocol, that is SMB or NFS or CIFS. These are the protocol which defines that how the data is going to be shared from one system to other system. If suppose we want to connect the other system remotely and we want to do it through the command prompt, so we have telnet or SSH to get the access of the remote machine command prompt, command line access. So how the communication will done, how we'll get the access, it is defined by the protocol which is telnet or SSH. Then we want to resolve the name, so DNS protocol works. DHCP protocol is there to define the IP addresses. We have the HTTP protocol to transfer the text, hypertext, like the websites we see. HTTPS that will be added with the SSL protocol to secure the HTTP connection. FTP protocol which is used to transfer the large files from one system to other system. Then we have many other protocols, many other protocols, and each protocol has a unique port number. They have a port number defined by the developer, like the protocol is designed by some developer, so those developer has defined that port number, that our protocol we use this port number. So on this transport layer, based on the protocol communication, like if we are doing the telnet, so based on the telnet protocol the port number will be defined. If we are using to connect the website, then the HTTP protocol port number will be added. So source and destination port number will be added on the transport layer, and these port numbers defines that on the wire, on the network, on the cable, on the network, how the data will go. Like for example, you can assume this network, this cable as a highway. So we can assume that this is the highway, and the port numbers are like the lanes of these highway. So when data goes onto this highway, so based on the port number, they go to these lanes. So like port number 21 is going from this lane, so the data is going from this lane, and the other protocols are having their own lane. So based on the protocol port numbers we have going and coming, the sessions, so we can assume like this is one session, this is another session, this is another session. This session is of port number 21, that means FTP. This session is like port number 80 for HTTP. This session is for 22 port number, that is SSH. So they are having their own lanes. So it is defined by this, it is decided by the port numbers we added into the transport lane. Now it add the source and destination port number both on the data. Now destination port number will be defined by the communication protocol, but the source port number will be randomly chosen, like any port number it can choose. Now any port number randomly choosing means what? Port number, well-known port numbers are from 1 to 1024. These port numbers are well known, that means well-known protocols and all that, they are using these port numbers. So if random port number chosen, then it will choose after this 1024, actually 1023. So after 1023 it can choose any port number between 1024 to 65,536. It has numbers, port numbers till 65,536 numbers. it can choose any port number between these numbers. These are well known, so it will not choose these port numbers because these port numbers are the well known protocol port numbers, and these port numbers are not well known. They are not well known, so they can choose any of these port numbers. And it is having a number from actually 0 to 65,536 because it is a 16-bit counter. So because it is a 16-bit address, so it can have 65,536 numbers. So it chooses any port number between this for the source port number. For example, if I'm sitting on this machine and I'm connecting Facebook here, so I'm opening one tab here in my browser, and I'm sending I'm trying to access the Facebook server. So when I try to access the Facebook server, so my machine will send the request to the Facebook server for the website. Now this request will be for website, that means HTTP request. HTTP request, that means a port number 80. So when it defines the port number inside transport layer, so the destination port number, that means the data is going to this server and it is asking for the services of HTTP, that means the destination port number will be 80 because the data is for HTTP. Then the source port number, it will choose randomly, it will choose any of the number between these numbers. Now I will tell you why it choose the random number. Let's say for example it will choose 5,000 here. So it will choose the 5,000. Then when this Facebook server replies for our request, so it will reply with this, the packet, the data will come from the server for the reply. So in that case, the source port number will be when reply comes, then the source will become the destination and the destination will become the source. That means the destination port will be 5,000 and the source port will be port 80 when the reply comes for our request from the Facebook server. So this is how it works. But why it is choosing the random number here? Because suppose at the same time I open one more tab and I send the request to Gmail server, and this is what, again it is a 80 request, port 80 request. So the destination port will be 80 because it is an HTTP request, and the source port it will choose random. Let's say it will choose the 5001 because 5000 is already chosen for Facebook. So when the reply comes from Gmail, so again the destination port will become the source port will become destination and destination port will become source. Now in this case our system can differentiate between these two replies, that this reply which is having the destination port of 5000 is the reply of the request which I sent, which is having the source port as a 5000, and the reply of this Gmail will have the destination port as 5001. That means this is the reply, it is coming from the request of the port number, source port number 5001. So it can differentiate by this source port so that it uses a random port number. Let's assume, if suppose we choose that both source and destination, because it is port 80, so it is HTTP communication, so both ports are 80. It is choosing both the ports as 80. Then what happens? If suppose both the ports are 80, then what happens? So let's say because it is HTTP protocol communication, so source and destination ports are both 80. Then what happens? Now when the request goes, destination port is 80, source port is 80 for Facebook. And when the second tab I open and send the request to Gmail, again source port is 80 and destination port is 80. Now then what happened when the reply comes back? Remember, here I open the Facebook in this tab. This is our browser application, and in this tab I try to open Gmail. Now when the reply comes back, now our machine has to decide that which reply is coming from Facebook and which reply is coming from Gmail, because both the reply has the same destination port number, that is 80. Now that will make confusion in our system. And then what, our system don't understand that where to open, where Facebook open in this tab or Gmail will open on this tab, or Gmail will open on this tab or Facebook will open on this tab. It will be confusion here, and that is why it chooses the random port number, source port number, for the request when it's sent. So when the transport layer attach the port number here, source and destination both, so the destination will define by the port number, a protocol, and the source port will be defined by the random. It will choose any port number from it. So this is also the job of transport layer. Now when it is sending the request and when it receives the request on the destination side, that means it will get the, it will see based on the port number. So this transport layer do what? It will join that at this service point address, that is the port numbers, and then it do the segmentation and reassembling of these segments at the destination site. Then it also do the connection control. Connection control done by the two protocols. These are also protocols, which is UDP and TCP. UDP is called connection user datagram protocol. It is connection less transport layer protocol, and TCP is a connection oriented transport layer protocol. So when it uses the UDP, each segments is considered as an independent packet and delivered to the transport layer at the destination machine. And in connection oriented protocol TCP, before delivering the packet, connection is made with the transport layer at the destination machine. And when we are using the TCP, it uses the flow control, and in this layer it do the flow control, perform the end-to-end. That is done by only when we are having the TCP connections. Then error controls, it also checks the errors. It also takes the errors. Error control perform end-to-end in this layer to ensure that the complete message arrives at the receiving transport layer without any error. Error correction is done through the retransmission, and it is done by only the TCP. So if we are using the TCP, so it manages the flow control and also do the error control. But when we use the UDP for connection control, then it will not do the flow control or error controls. Now for this you have to understand how the UDP and TCP works and what is the difference in between UDP and TCP. So let's see this first. Like first UDP, TCP and UDP. So when we use the TCP, so TCP is a connection oriented protocol, and connection oriented protocol, that means it communicating devices should establish a connection before transmitting data and should close the connection after transmitting the data. So when we are using the TCP for sending the data, so it will do what? It will first establish the session. It will establish the session by using the three-way handshake. That means it do this TCP three-way handshake. Three-way handshake means what? The sender machine first send the sync packet to the receiver. That means it send a TCP packet. Remember what is happening here? It is happening before sending the data. It is happening before sending the data. That means data is there. Data is on the transport layer. It is waiting to be transferred, and it is already segmented. Remember, it is already segmented, and after that each segments will go individually. So before sending the segment one, the first segment, it will do what? If we are using the TCP, if we are using the TCP for the transport, so what the TCP will do, it will establish the connection. Now let's say for example we are doing the communication for FTP. We want to send or receive the data for FTP protocol. FTP is a file transfer protocol. It used to transfer large amount of files, and the port number defined for the FTP is 21. So this is the sender machine who is sending the data, and this is suppose the receiver. Like this is the source machine and this is the destination machine. Now what happened? First the source machine will do what? It will send a sync packet. It is a TCP packet which is having a flag. It is called flag. It is called a flag, and it is a sync flag. So it is a flag, that means it is a blank packet. It is just a TCP packet, and in that packet they have multiple flags. So it is set the flag sync. It is like this, like the packet has multiple flags, but which flag is enabled? The flag is set that checkbox, like it is checked that the sync flag is set. So it send the packet with the sync flag set. Now this sync flag means what? It is asking for the destination machine that I want to do, hello, I want to do the communication for FTP. So it sends the packet information also that it wants to do the communication for the FTP, that is port number 21. It is like it is sending the request for the destination machine. It is saying, hello, I want to communicate with FTP. Do you agree? Are you ready to accept my request? Or are you ready to accept the data for port number 21? Now this destination machine, if this machine is configured with FTP, now configured with FTP and request accepting the request from the clients or the other machine, that means what? This machine is an FTP server and it is configured with the FTP server, and it is accepting the request from everyone. That means on this machine, port number 21 will be called as a open. It is an open port here, and if it is not configured with FTP, that means the port number 21 will be closed and it will not accept any request for port number 21. So that is two conditions. Either it is running FTP and port number is open, or it is not running FTP and port number is not open. So when the source machine send the sync flag set to this destination machine for port number 21 or FTP, then this machine will decide. Now if suppose the port open, the FTP is configured here, the port number 21 is open, then this machine will send again in reply a packet of TCP with the sync ACK flag set. That means in this packet the flag of sync plus ACK will be configured, will be set. So sync is a synchronization and ACK means acknowledgement. So it will send the packet with the sync ACK flag set. Now what that means? That means I am ready. I am ready to accept your request. I am ready to accept your data on port number 21. Are you ready? It is asking again that are you ready? You want to send? Are you ready? Then this source machine will do what? It will send again a TCP flag setting the acknowledgement packets, acknowledgement flag, ACK flag set. Now that means this source machine says yes, I am ready, and now I am ready to send the data. So this is what the three-way handshake. After completing the three-way handshake, the source machine will start sending the data. It will start sending the data, and data will be sent to the destination machine. Now there are other flags are also there with the TCP. TCP is with multiple other flags. Multiple other flags, that means sync is for synchronization. It is for asking the other machine that are the machines are ready to accept the packet. This sync ACK is the reply of the sync. And then there is another flag. This ACK means it is an acknowledgement. Now there are other flags are also there. Let's say for example, when this machine sends the sync flag to this machine, FTP, this destination machine, and FTP is not running there. That means FTP is not running there. Now if it is not running there, then what? This machine will not accept the communication of FTP. So in this case, when this machine, source machine, send the sync flag, so without sending the acknowledgement packet, this destination machine will send what? Will send the packet which is reset flag set. Now reset flag means what? RST. Reset flag means what? It says that I don't have FTP, I don't have port number 21. I do it again, reset the connection and do try to send any other thing, but I don't accept this FTP, try to reset the connection. This flag means to reset the connection, I don't accept FTP. So there is a reset flag is also there. Then there are some other flags like there is a flag called push and urgent also. Push and urgent also, and these are the special flags when suppose the data is going on, data is sending there, and while the data is sending, suppose the other machine is not working properly or it is a slow machine, so data is the packets are stuck here on the source side. So what this source machine will do, it will actually send a flag which says push. It will say push, it will set the flag push into it. Now push means what? Try to push the data because there are more data to come. It is just indicating the destination machine that try to do the work quickly because there are more data is to become. Sometimes these machines will be busy with some other works. So it is just like a reminder to the destination machine that please process the data. There are more data is to come. But if this machine is slow, then it will work slow. It will not affect with the push. Then one more thing, there are one more flag when the data is going on. There are one more flag. It is called urgent flag. Now this flag sent by the source machine when suppose there is a data is going on already, but this source machine wants to send another data which is important than this data. This data which it is want to send, it is more important or it is having a more priority than this data. Let's say for example we are sending the file from this machine to that machine. It is just a file it is sending and it is a 1 GB file, it will take time. But right now I have opened my message box here in this source machine and I just send the message to this destination machine saying hello. Now this message must go quickly. We can't wait that this 1 GB data first go and then my message will go. The message should go quickly. So what with this source machine will do, it will send the urgent flag in between. While the data is going on, it will send the urgent flag. Urgent flag means please stop the processing of this data, whatever you are doing, and process the data now first what I am sending after the urgent flag. That means whatever the data comes after the urgent flag, that will be processed first. So it is indicated by the urgent flag by the source machine. It is done only when the important or more priority data comes after this data, like whatever the data you are doing, you are sending it, and after just with that data, suppose some urgent data comes, priority data comes, then it will be processed first with the urgent flag. Now when the communication finished, when this source machine finished all the data sending, now it is not having any data to send. Then what? The source machine has to indicate the destination machine that I have finished sending the data. Otherwise this destination machine will keep waiting for the data. It will keep open the connection, it will keep waiting the data. So for that this source machine will do what? It will send a flag called finish, fin flag. It sends the data, it sends the TCP data, TCP packet with the fin flag set. Now fin means finish. I am done with the data. I don't have any data to send. Now when this source machine send the finish data, finish flag, then the destination machine will send the packet with reset flag set. This reset flag set, and again the reset flag means this connection is now reset, and if we want to do the communication, we have to start from the beginning, like from the sync flag. So this is what the TCP communication, the TCP do. So TCP is a connection oriented protocol. It establishes the connection first before sending the data. Now in other hand, UDP, what UDP? So what UDP do? UDP is a user datagram protocol. It is a datagram oriented protocol, and this is because there is no overhead for opening a connection. maintaining a connection and terminating a connection. UDP is efficient for broadcast and multicast type of network transmission. So basically it will not do anything. It will not make sure that the machine is there or not, the destination machine is ready to accept the data or not accept the data. It will just throw the data. It will just throw the data without doing any connection establishment. Maybe the destination machine is not available. It does not care. It does not care that the machine is available or not. It is accepting the data or not. It is just throw the data. That is why it is basically used for broadcasting and multicasting type of communications. It do what? It just send request, response, response, request like this. It does not establish any connection. Then TCP is reliable as it guarantees the delivery of the data that destination to the destination router. So it is TCP will guarantees that the data will definitely reach the destination. But this UDP, the delivery of data to the destination cannot be guaranteed in UDP. Now why it is not guaranteed? Because the TCP when send the data, it wait for the acknowledgement. It wait for the acknowledgement. That means when it sends the data, now the data is going on when our connection is established, so data is going on. So while it's sending the data, it do seek the acknowledgement from the destination machine. Like for example, it sends 2 packets from here, and when the 2 packet reaches the destination machine, so the destination machine will send the acknowledgement that I received the 2 packets. And if the destination machine says I received the 2 packets, then it will send the other 2 packets. So it seeks the acknowledgement from the other side. And if suppose the other machine says I don't get 2 packet, I get only 1 packet. So what this TCP, what the TCP will do, it will send again the packet which the destination machine does not get. That means it will make sure the data will definitely reach the destination, because it seeks the acknowledgement while it sends the data. In other hand, UDP does not do anything. It just throw the data. Even it does not check the machine is there or not. So no matter of the acknowledgements. So it will just throw the data. Whether the machine is getting the data or not getting the data, it is not the responsibility of UDP. Then TCP provides the extensive error checking mechanism. It is because it provides flow control and acknowledgement of data. So as I said, it do what? It do check the errors. Like when the data is not reaching the destination, then it resend the data, and it manages the flow control and seeks the acknowledgement. In other hand, UDP has only the basic error checking mechanism using the checksum which is set by the data link layer. So if it is correct, then the data will reach, and if it is not correct, then no matter for the UDP does not care. It will not resend the data. So TCP actually do the flow control, but UDP does not do the flow control. Then sequencing of data is a feature of transmission control protocol TCP, and this means that packet arrive in order at the receiver. So when the segments are done for the packet, each packet has a sequence number. So when the data reaches the destination, it can rearrange the data according to the sequence number. Then there is no sequencing of data in UDP. If ordering is required, it has to be managed by the application layer. So it do the flow control. So TCP also do the flow control. It seeks the acknowledgement. What the flow control it do with the windowing? Windowing, that means what? Data is sequenced into multiple packets. Like when the data comes into transport layer, and it is segmented into multiple ports, multiple packets, and each segment has a unique sequence number, like sequence number 1, sequence number 2, so that when it reaches the destination, it can arrange according to the sequence number. So it do the flow control. Now how it do the flow control? Let's, for example, first after establishing the connection, when it comes to send the data, so what it will do, it will send packet 1 first. That means a sequence number 1. That means a first packet. It sends the packet to the destination machine, and when the destination machine receives the packet 1, So it will send the acknowledgement that I received the first packet, send me the second packet. Then this source machine will do what? It will send the second packet, and then it will send the third packet also. Now when it receives the second and third packet, our destination machine, then what it will do? It will send the acknowledgement that okay, I received the both second and third packet, send me the fourth one. Now our source machine will do what? It will send the fourth packet, fifth packet, and sixth packet. Then what? It will send it when it receives all those three packets, like the fourth one, fifth one, and the sixth one. Then it sends a reply that I want seventh one. So our source machine will send the seventh one, 8, then 9, then 10. It will send this to the destination machine. Now what you are seeing here is a flow control. What the source machine is doing, it is increasing the size of a number of packets. First it sends a single packet, then it sends the 2 packets, then it sends the 3 packets, then it sends the 4 packets. And these number of packets which it sends and wait for the acknowledgement, it is called the window size. First window size is 1. So first it sends the 1 packet and wait for the acknowledgement. Then it sends the 2, that means the window size become 2, and it waits for the acknowledgement. Like window size define that how many packets sent before waiting for the acknowledgement. Then it is increasing the window size. If you can see, it is increasing the window size to 3, then it increased to 4. Now when suppose the destination machine says I received the 7th one, I received the 8th one, I received the 9th one, but I don't receive the 10th one. Like the 4th packet I don't receive. It will send the acknowledgement saying I want 10 because I don't get the 10. Now that means what? The destination machine is not capable of processing the 4 packet, the window size of the 4. So this source machine will do what? It will reduce the window size and it will send the 3 packets. Like window size will be reduced to 3. Then it will send 10, 11 and 12. Like it will be reduced to 3 packets then. Now this is called the flow control. It manages the flow control based on the destination machine, like it is doing the negotiation, like how the destination machine can handle the packets. You may have seen this also in real time when you download or copy some files from the network. So sometime when you try to copy, so it will say like it is going to take 1 hour. Why? Because it was trying to send only 1 packet. The window size was only 1. When it is increasing the window size, the time reduced. It will say 1 hour. After second, it will say no, it will take 30 minutes. Then it will say no, it will take 15 minutes. Then it will say no, it will take 10 minutes. Now when it is saying 10 minutes, that means it is sending 4 packets. Now then suddenly it says no, it will take 20 minutes, and then it will take exactly 20 minutes because they have negotiated with the exact number of packets, and then it will take almost that time. So it is an example of the flow control. So it do the flow control, use the windowing to wait for the acknowledgement. But in other hand, UDP is not doing anything. If suppose the packet is divided into segments, then it is responsible for the application and application layer to manage the packets and manage the segments. Otherwise the UDP will not do anything. The TCP will manage the segments, because when the packet is divided into suppose 12, so it will not reach the destination as it is, like it will not reach in sequence. Maybe sometime packet number 11 comes first, then packet number 10 comes first, second, then packet number 2 comes, then packet number 5 comes. So it will wait for the whole package to become. Like for example, it is divided into 12. So when the 11th packet come, so it will say it is the 11th packet of the packet number 2. Total number of packet is 12, and this is the 11th packet. So our destination machine will wait for all the 12 packets to come, and then it will combine those packets and make the whole PDU. This is all done by the TCP, not done by the UDP. Now TCP is comparatively slower than UDP. Now this is the important thing. What you will say, you may ask that why TCP is doing a lot of things. TCP is managing the flow control. TCP is making sure the data will go and reach the destination. It is doing the connection establishment. UDP, in other hand, is not doing anything. It is not caring about the data. It is not error checking. It is not doing the error checking mechanism, not taking the acknowledgement. So how the data will reach? And why we use the UDP if the TCP is the best thing? So this is the important thing, that TCP is slower than the UDP. So TCP is basically slower than the UDP, and UDP is faster, simpler and more efficient than TCP. So if suppose we want to send any data where our data is important but the speed is not important, so we use the TCP. And suppose we want to send the data but the speed is important for us but the data is not that important. If the data is not reached the destination, I don't care, but it should reach fast. Then what? We use the UDP. So UDP used simply for broadcasting and sending the broadcasting and multicasting type of communication, where the data is not important. Data is not important, the important is to reach the destination fast. But the UDP, TCP used for other protocols, like suppose I am using the SMTP. SMTP is to send the mail, and mails are very important, so it should reach, it must reach the destination. We can't lose the data, so it uses the TCP. Now remember, the protocols, which protocol use TCP or which protocol use UDP, it is not defined by us, it is defined by the protocol vendor, like the protocol designer who designs the protocol. They have decided that the protocol will use TCP or UDP. Like the SMTP protocol, SMTP protocol is used to send the mail, so it is used to send the mail, it is important, so it uses the TCP. Now when you use the DNS or DHCP, so DNS and DHCP is only for name resolution and providing the IP address that you need very quickly. Like when you go to the browser and you type the name www.facebook.com, so the name will be resolved by the DNS and it should be done very fast. You can't wait for it, and that data is not important. So what it uses the UDP. So many other things, many other protocols use UDP and TCP for the communication, but that is decided by the protocol designer. We don't decide this, and we cannot decide it. Then TCP retransmission of lost packet is possible in TCP, but not in UDP. As we say, it will resend the packet if the packet is not reached. Then there is no retransmission in this UDP. So data may lost. TCP doesn't support broadcasting and UDP supports broadcasting. So this is the main difference between TCP and UDP. So on this transport layer, what it will do, it will add these information, like in each segment it will add the port number, and it will do what? If the data is going for the TCP, so it will do establish the connection first and then send the data. And if the data is going to TCP through UDP, then it will not establish the connection, it will directly send the data. Now here on the transport layer, it decides that whether the data will go by TCP or UDP, and it based on the protocol, the protocol communication we are doing. Like if we are doing the communication for FTP, it will go for TCP. If we are doing the communication for DNS, then it will go for UDP. It is decided by the communication protocol. So this PDU is divided into segments. if it is TCP, and sometime for UDP also. And for each packets, what it will do here, this is the PDU, and from this transport layer it will add an additional informations here, like the source and destination port number, then the information about the TCP communication. Everything is added extra here, and it is called the header. So it added this extra header into this PDU, original PDU, and then forward the data to network layer. Now the network layer will do what? Now network layer describes how data is routed across networks and on the destination. And network layer functions include the maintaining address of neighboring router and maintaining the list of known networks. So it defines the logical addressing here in the networking layer. It determines the next network point to which data should be sent, and routers uses a routing protocol to take into account various factors such as the number of hops in the path, link speed and link reliability to select the optimal path for data. Packet forwarded from the transport to the network layer becomes datagram and network specific. That means routing information is added, and network layer protocols then ensure that the data arrives at the intended destination. And network layer protocols are like IP, IPX and FL. So in this layer it actually defines the network layer protocol, that is the routed protocols, whether it is IP, IPX or AppleTalk. AppleTalk is also a routed protocol, which is actually, as a name suggests, it works only on Apple devices. So all these protocols do what? They provide the numbering system logical addressing. So IP is the most famous protocol which we use. Then we have IPX also, but nowadays we don't use IPX. AppleTalk is only for the Apple devices. So what it do in the network layer, in the PDU, this is the PDU, and in the PDU we have already added the header of transport layer, which is added the information about the transport layer, like segment information, port information, and TCP UDP information is already added here on this transport layer header. It added one more header into the data on the network layer with the information about these network addresses, like source addresses and destination addresses and other informations. So after adding the header for the network layer, the data will be forwarded to the data link layer. Now the data link layer will do what? It will do its job. This data link layer is divided into two sub-layers: media access control and logical link control. So this data link layer is actually divided into two layers, two sub-layers. First is this logical link control and the media access control. Now what the media access control? Media access control layer defines the specification for controlling access to the media. That means adding the frame start and stop information to the packet, adding the cyclic redundancy check for the error checking. So in this layer the error is also checked. Then converting the frames into bits to be sent across the network, identifying the network devices and network topologies in preparation for media transmission, defining an address such as the MAC addresses. Remember the physical addresses of the LAN card or NIC for each physical devices on the network, and controlling the access to the transmission medium. So it defines all these things. Specifically, it adds the MAC address and add the cyclic redundancy checker so that it can check the errors. But remember, it cannot correct the error. It can only check the error, and if the error is there, then it will do what? It will throw the packet. It will not accept the packet. It will drop the packet, and that is why sometimes the packets are dropped, and TCP will do what? It will resend the packets. Then logical link control will do what? This logical link control provides the interface between the MAC layer, that is the media access control layer, and the upper layers protocols, that is the LNC protocols, and are defined by the IEEE 802.3 committee. So this LNC sublayer is responsible for maintaining orderly delivery of the frame through sequencing, controlling the flow or rate of the transmission using the following acknowledgement, buffering and windowing, then ensuring the error-free reception of messages by transmitting, converting data into an acceptable form for the upper layers, removing the framing information from the packet and forwarding the messages to the network layer, and provide a way for upper layers of the OSI model to use any MAC layer protocol, and defining service access point by tracking and managing different protocols. In total, this data link layer will do the job of like adding the MAC address into the packet, source MAC address and destination MAC address, like source from the sending machine and the destination MAC address, the machine which is getting the packet. And also it adds the sequence cyclic redundancy checker into it, that will add the information about the error checking. So here it will add what, like this is the packet here, PDU. In the PDU it is already added some headers, like the header of the transport layer, then the header of the network layer, and from the data link layer it will add one more header, and one more header has the information about the MAC addresses, like the source MAC address, physical address of the source machine, and the destination MAC address of the destination machine, and then the other controlling information like the CRC and FCC for the error checking. It will add one more information, additional information. This information is there, it is called header. The additional information it is adding, it is called trailer. In that it adds the CRC and other controlling informations, and complete the packet. It completes the packet on this data link layer and forward it to the physical layer. Now the physical layer's job is to transmit the data. Now the physical layer of the OSI model sets the standard for sending and receiving the electrical signals between devices. It describes how the digital data bits are converted to electric pulse and radio waves or pulses of lights. Devices that operates at the physical layer sends and receives a stream of bits. So this physical layer do what? It only transmits the data according to the transmission medium. So whatever the transmission medium, is it a wired or wireless or fiber optic, whatever it, according to that it will convert the data into these radio wave signals or electrical pulses or light pulses. It will send the data on the based of the transmission medium, a stream of bits. The physical layer provides these following services: modulate the process of converting a signal from one form to another so that it can be physically transmitted over the communication channel, bit by bit delivery, carrier sense and collision detection, whereby the physical layer detects the carrier ability and avoids the conjunction problems caused by undeliverable packets. So here the carrier sense multiple access collision detects works on this physical layer. Then signal acquisition to ensure reliable connection and facilitate the multiplexing. And also forward error correction, channel coding such as error correction code, and transmission mode control. So these things done by the physical layer, basically it do what? Transmit the data. So till the data link layer, the data is ready to send. It is actually encapsulated. We can say it is encapsulated, and at the destination site it will be de-encapsulated. So encapsulating the data, that means the sending and receiving of the data from the source device to the destination device is possible with the help of networking protocols by using the data encapsulation. So there are some encapsulation protocols which works on the data link layer. They do the encapsulation. And on the destination side, the protocols do what? The de-encapsulation of the data. So it adds the headers one by one into it, and finally it encapsulate, and at the destination site it will de-encapsulate the data one by one and de-encapsulate the data. Like for example like this. So this physical layer do what? This data is converted into bits, stream of bits, and according to the physical medium it will send the data, and the data will reach to the destination. Now first it reaches the physical layer. Physical layer will do what? It will convert these streams to the data, and the data packet will be ready, and it will be forwarded to the data link layer. Now remember, the data link layer will do what? It will first check the errors by using opening the trailer, and if there is no error, then it will what? Open the header for the data link layer and check the source and destination MAC address. And if the destination MAC address is of this machine, then it will accept the packet, and it will open these headers and trailers, and then it will forward the packet to the network layer. Network layer will do what? It will open the header for the network layer, and it checks the source and destination IP addresses. Now if the source destination IP address is belong to this machine, then it will accept the packet, otherwise it will drop the packet, and it will remove this header and forward the packet to transport layer. Now the transport layer sees this header, and it defines whether the port number, what is the port number, how many segments are there, whether it is coming from TCP or UDP. So it will work accordingly. It is coming from TCP or UDP. If it is coming from TCP, then it has to wait for the other segments and send the acknowledgement and do all those flow control things. And finally, after doing everything, when all the packets, all the segments are arrived, it will join the segments according to the sequence and create the PDU. And forward the PDU. It create the PDU and forward the PDU to session layer. Session layer will manage the session, is it incoming, outgoing. Then presentation layer checks the format of the data. According to the formats of the data, it will transfer the data to that related application. Is it the mail, is it the text, is it the video file, is it the audio file? Based on that, it will forward the data to that application, and the application will accept the data, and then it will this application layer will do what? It will forward the data to that application, related application, and we see the data into our machine here. So when we talk about the encapsulation, so this is what the encapsulation. First three layers decide the data streams, then the transport layer add the header into it. Data is divided into segments, and then each layer add the headers into it, and finally on the transport data link layer, it is encapsulated and converted into encapsulated, and then in the destination site the de-encapsulation happens and opens each header one by one. Now these layers helpful for the vendors who's making the hardware devices or software. It will be helpful. It is actually helpful for the vendors who's making hardware and software, so that they can make their software or hardware based on the specific layer. And it is also important, or it is good for the administrators for doing the troubleshooting. These layers are important for the administrator also for doing the troubleshooting. If suppose something goes wrong, so they don't have to change the whole model, they just have to change the device which is working for that layer, or they just have to troubleshoot the layer. Like in the PC, we have RAM, processor and hard disk. So if suppose your hard disk corrupts, then you don't throw the machine, you will change the hard disk. If your RAM corrupts, then you only change the RAM, you don't change the whole machine. So it is like this. In the network, if any layers corrupts, then we only work on that layer, we don't have to change the whole network. So the hardware vendors make the devices according to their layer. Like for example, when we talk about the hub, so it works on the physical layer. Because it does not understand anything, it cannot see any MAC address or anything, it only do the transmission. It works on the physical layer. The switches and bridges works on the data link layer, because they can open till this error checking and till the header of the data link layer. That means they can see the source MAC address and destination MAC address. and based on that they can do what, they can create the CAM table, and in the CAM table they can add the entry of those MAC addresses, but they cannot see anything else. The routers works on network layer because the routers can can open the network layer header also. It can open the network layer header and it can see what is the IP address, source and destination, but rest of the things it cannot see. So our router works on network layer, and when it works on network layer, then it can do the job of data link layer also and physical layer job also, because the data is going from physical data link to network layer. If it is the switch is working on data link layer, that means it is doing the job of physical layer also. Then this transport layer job is done by the operating system itself. Then that these other three, the upper layer job is done by the application and operating system. So if anything wrong with the network layer, we can work on the work and troubleshoot on the router. If any problem comes on the data link layer, then we can work on switches, bridges. If you see the problem on physical layer, then we can work on the hubs. Now when there is no switches, hubs and router, two devices are connected directly, then our NICs, our network interface card, can do all of these jobs of physical, data link, network layer and the other all these three jobs. So we can say the network interface card can do all these jobs. So this is the OSI reference model, which is defined by the ISO, Organization of International Organization for Standardizations. They have decided it. They have made it like a layer structure, so that it is good for the troubleshooting, easy for the troubleshooting for the administrator, and also the hardware vendors. It will be easy for make the hardware devices or software for the vendors, so they can make the devices for the specific layer.